Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's web class. So, can you believe there is only 4 more weeks left until we're in the live training room? So, welcome if you're here live, and if you're watching the replay, welcome as well. And I hope you enjoy what we're going through today. Look! There's so much going on in terms of what our unconscious mind is doing every single second. Yet everything seems to be pretty much automatic. And what we want to do with the NLP training is bring to your awareness how NLP works and bring to your awareness these unconscious behaviors and make them conscious, so you can actually have more awareness and more control over the results that you get in your life. And one of the things that we want to do in order to make that happen is to break down all of the structure of NLP so that NLP is easier to understand. And this is one of the reasons we created the NLP Easy Learning Toolkit, is to help you get your head around this massive area of knowledge. Are you enjoying studying NLP? Are you enjoying all the amazing content, the insights, the information, the perspective, how different it is from most training courses you come across? It's just very deep. And I can say, after 20 years of teaching and using NLP practically every day, that NLP is one of the most powerful tools and techniques I've ever come across in my life. And I'm still learning aspects of it and getting new perspectives of it all the time. So this week we want to talk about the second module of the Easy Learning Toolkit. So before we do that, just a reminder, my name is Micheál Colquhoun. I'm the founder of Transform People Academy, along with Majella Colquhoun, my wife. We run Transform People Academy. And I really want to talk about a little bit of the background of the Easy Learning Toolkit today before we begin. So the Easy Learning Toolkit, where did it come from? Well, what I realized is NLP is it's a huge area of knowledge, and there's a huge amount of models and information in there. And I remember explaining this once to one of our students, and saying, look, if you think about it, you can break NLP down to 5 different areas, and that's the 5 M's I've written down on the side of the screen here. And each of these M's represent a chunk or a container or an aspect of NLP. And there's only 5. Everything fits into these 5. However, they're not all the same. The first one, as you probably aware at this moment, is super important, because without this first one, what you end up is you get people who get frustrated when things don't work out. You ever hear people make a plan, the plan doesn't work, and they get frustrated? And of course, the first one is mindset. It's about understanding how you can change your mindset, upgrade your mindset to get the results you want, and not to actually just collapse in a heap when things go wrong, that you can reframe things and get a different perspective on your experience. Remember that NLP communication model? It's all about mindset, upgrading your mindset. Now, the second M of the Easy Learning Toolkit is probably more important once you get the fundamentals, because without the second M, what you get is people who make life difficult for themselves. And when you understand this, life becomes easy. Life becomes much easier. You get into flow much easier. What we're talking about here is motivation, of course, and not just about motivation, but also what prevents people from having motivation naturally. The next 3 weeks, then, we're going to be talking about messaging, about modeling, and mastery. So before we actually jump into this week's module, I want to just remind you for a moment. Let me just jump into the flip chart here. Just remind you for a moment what the model looks like from a content perspective. So if we were to break these down into mindset, motivation, message, modeling, and mastery, I would say, how do we compare these? Now, I would say the first mindset, it's like there's a pretty steep learning curve initially in the beginning. Let's make that a little bit thicker. So there's some content there that you need to understand. And then you get the second piece, there's a little bit more content. Then you get to the third piece, which is the messaging, you get a little bit more content. Now what you find is when you get to the last 2, these become almost exponential and goes off the scale. In other words, it's easy enough to learn about the mindset. So this is mindset. And it's easy enough to get your head around the motivation piece. And there's more content in the messaging part. However, once you've actually got these 3 parts done, Now you've got a solid foundation on NLP. You've got a foundation of what makes NLP work. And of course, that's what we're going to be focusing very much in the live training room, is actually getting you to experience how these tools create change and create transformation in yourself and also in your clients and your prospects within sales, education, coaching, mentoring. But the last two, they're massive. They really are huge. And the one here about modeling is so big, we don't cover all of it on the practitioner certification training. What we do is we give you the tools for doing the modeling. We give you the aspects of it. And we give you enough so we're not overloading you, but there's some things that we don't do specifically about designing models and actually installing models. But those models, we give you an awful lot of that information on the practitioner certification training, and the master practitioner, then we use it for doing real world applications, much bigger programs of work, much bigger examples. And you will use this for the rest of your life then, these modeling techniques. And what happens is when you create models of excellence from these modeling techniques, what you get is mastery. And mastery refers to the trail of techniques that are left behind from these modeling exercises. And that's why this is infinite. This is why this is so big, is because that's not just what's taught in the NLP Practitioner Certification training. These are all of the models that come from learning about NLP. And let me give you an example of some of the models of mastery that come from NLP. The obvious one that you might have heard about is the fast phobia cure. So people study the fast phobia cure from NLP, Richard Bandler and John Grinder, and they worked out how to get rid of phobias for everybody, right? It works for everybody regardless of your background and what's happened to you. Phobias can be eliminated using the fast phobia model. That's one of the models, which is kind of a therapeutic model. Another model that came from NLP is the model around consultancy selling. Now, there's already consultancy selling around, but there's a very specific model that you might have even found in your home study program, which is called 5-step sales process, which is a very powerful model for doing face-to-face or one-on-one sales. And it's a very important skill to have. And it came from modeling people who are really good salespeople. There's also models around education that come from NLP. And we talk a little bit about that in the training room and the prac, but we go into it more in the master prac when we talk about presentation skills on the master prac. There's also really important models, which you do talk about in the prac, around relationships and the different aspects of relationship strategies that are really important when relating to other people. And it's also in communication as well. There's also exquisite models around public speaking that come from NLP, from modeling excellent public speakers. And I've spent a lot of time looking at this aspect of NLP because I used to be a lecturer in the university in Galway many years ago. And of course, public speaking is very much part of my business, my career, whether as a consultant working in IT or as a public speaker, giving presentations, telling people about NLP. So the public speaking side of NLP is really, really big as well. And then, of course, you've got a massive area, which is the coaching side of it, how to assist people find out what blocks them from getting the results they want and to raise their standards, raise their value, raise their wealth, raise their opportunities for growth. So that's just an example of some of the models of excellence that falls into this category of mastery. So what we're going to focus on this training is models for change, models for understanding yourself and models for understanding other people. And then we advance into a lot more of these master classes, mastery techniques in the Master Practitioner Certification. So that's kind of just a quick guided tour of the 5 steps of the Easy Learning Toolkit, which I think is a great way of explaining all of NLP in just a couple of minutes. Okay, so just a reminder again, this week, let me just see, do I have the right slides here? I think this is correct. Yeah. So what I wanted you to do for the next 4 weeks or so, I want you to set aside an hour a day, that's all. Or 4 hours a week. And the reason I'm saying an hour a day is because we cover 4 modules each week for the next couple of weeks. So if you spend 1 hour a day on each of these modules, that's 4 hours for the week. And that's all you need to really get a very good handle, a very good foundation on the theory of NLP to prepare you to do the change work when we come into the training room. Of course, last week was week 1. This week we've got week 2. And then the subsequent weeks, we'll go through what you need to cover. And I'm going to go exactly what you need to cover in each of these weeks. So And each week has got 4 modules or 4 chapters, 4 programs, 4 pieces of content that I want you to focus on. Of course, last week we talked about mindset, and this week we're going to be talking about motivation, and not just about how to get motivated, but the more important aspect of it is what stops people from being naturally motivated. This is a really important topic. Okay, let's just break into what we're talking about here. In the next couple of weeks, then I'll just mention them again, which is the message piece, which is all about language, the language of the nervous system, and we also have the modeling part, which I just referred to a second ago, and we also talked about mastery as well. Okay, so this week, motivation. So what is important about motivation? What do we need to know about it? Now, what I want you to think about is that as we speak about motivation, we're talking about leveraging the limbic system. What does that mean? What does it really mean when we say leveraging the limbic system? What it means is understanding that a lot of people make their life very difficult as a result of not knowing about NLP. Have you ever heard or come across people who really work hard and they really struggle to get good results? And they do get there, but then they'll say, my God, I work so hard. I deserve to be successful. I deserve to get these results because I've worked so hard. Now, I have a question for you. Is hard work the key to success? Is hard work actually the key to success? Now, of course, hard work is very important, but can I ask you a question? What would it be like if it were easy? What if it were like if everything just kind of fell into place and automatically just things started to reveal themselves to you as you went through your day, as you went through your week, and you had a high degree of motivation and a high degree of synergy and flow in your day and in your week and your life? What would that be like? And that comes from understanding the 4 aspects of motivation. Because the reality is that when you start to understand, let me just flip over to the screens here. When you start to understand what makes motivation work, and more importantly, what creates the obstacles, we just go back to last week's, talk about the obstacles that stop us getting from where we are to where we want to be, and we understand how to get rid of those obstacles, then what happens is we start to get into flow, and this flow path here is the way of making things easy. This all comes down to understanding motivation and how to leverage the limbic system, how to leverage the unconscious patterns, and how to talk to your unconscious and to build rapport with your unconscious mind so you can start to create more ease, more flow in your life. And it's miraculous. It's really wonderful when it happens, because you start saying, oh wow, things are just falling into place. You're not struggling. You're not feeling you're fighting against yourself the whole time. I remember before I came across NLP, I would ask the question, how do I get motivated? And I had these tricks. And the reality is, when you understand this module, leveraging the limbic system, you don't need those tricks. So I had tricks like I would play loud music to get myself pumped up and motivated in order to get myself up in the morning to just go. Sometimes I'd have cold showers. And I still think cold showers are amazing, but for a therapeutic purpose, not to get myself motivated in the morning. I used to drink coffee. I used to drink a lot of coffee, very strong coffee, 5, 6, 7, 8 cups of coffee a day sometimes. I used to drink a lot of sugary drinks, eat sweets. I would say the sweets gives me energy. Of course, none of that is true. All this comes down to your thinking and your mindset. And when you actually start to program your thinking, when you actually start to tweak the thoughts you have and reframe the thoughts you have, and you collapse negative anchors and you change the submodalities, and you have better outcomes, better goals, then what happens is you naturally fall into a place where you get consistent motivation towards your goals instead of actually trying to psych yourself up and get into a positive state. So I used to say to myself, how do I get motivated? And the reality is lots of people ask that question, can we talk about motivation so I can get myself motivated, because I'm really not motivated, I need to get motivated. The problem with this is, if you're looking for a trick to get motivated, you're looking for something outside of your own thinking. You're looking for something outside of your mind. You're looking for an external trigger to motivate you. And the problem with that is, as long as you're looking for an external trigger to motivate you, you'll always lack motivation. However, when you know how to speak the language of the unconscious mind and motivate yourself internally through the pictures and the feelings and the symbols you create in your mind, then what happens is you get consistent motivation. You get more kind of a flowing energy. And if you want to learn more about this, you need to look at this week's prep for the leveraging the limbic system, because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So how do we make it work? What's actually in there? Well, the reality is there's 4 aspects to motivation. You have to understand how to talk the language of the unconscious mind. You have to create images in the unconscious mind, so those images are actually symbols or references or directions to how your mind works. And the way we do that is we create images in the mind and then we save the image. And the save stands for S for submodalities, A for anchoring, V for visualization and outcomes, and E for emotion motivation. So remember that acronym, SAVE. Save the image. We want to save the image. We want to place those images in the unconscious mind to automatically motivate ourselves to create the sort of results we actually need to get consistent motivation. And there's 4 aspects to it. The first one is about submodalities. Now remember, what are submodalities? Submodalities are the finer distinctions to the modalities. What does that mean? They are the properties or the aspects of each of the modes of communication. What are the modes? The modes being the modalities, being the language of the nervous system. What's the language of the nervous system? It's on your test, you should know. The language of the nervous system is the VAK, OG, and AD. The visual modality, the auditory modality, the kinesthetic modality, the olfactory modality, which is smell, and the gustatory modality, which is taste, and also the AD modality, which is your auditory digital or your self-talk, how you talk to yourself about the experiences that you have. So they're the different modes of communication between humans, and the different aspects then, the different representation systems then is the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory representation systems. So understanding those modalities, not just in terms of recognizing words, but also the body language and the patterns and behavior and what you need in terms of rapport building, and all of it comes together in terms of the properties of each of those modalities. If you take, for example, pictures, if you think about a picture of your car, if you think about your car, not a picture of your car, think about your car, do you have a picture? Now that picture will have properties. For some people that picture is black and white, for some people it's color, some people that picture is quite big, some people it's quite small, some it's a frame, doesn't have a frame. Those properties, those aspects are the sub-modalities, the finer distinctions of the modalities. So that is really important to understand, not just what they are, but how we can use them to create change in yourself and other people. Anchoring then is about understanding stimulus response, about the work of Pavlov and Pavlov's dogs. You may have heard the story about Pavlov's dog. He had these dogs, and he would actually he would take a steak out to give to the dogs, and just before the dogs would eat the steak, he would actually ring a bell. It was actually a tuning fork, but for the purposes of discussion, would say it's a bell. So he'd ring this bell just as the dogs were about to eat the steak, and they would salivate. Next day he'd take the steak out, they'd salivate, he'd ring the bell. Next day he'd take the steak out, they'd see the steak, they'd salivate, and he'd ring the bell. Next day he came to them, but he didn't bring the steak out, he just rang the bell and they automatically salivated. So he'd create a response by a stimulus of ringing the bell, and the bell caused the dogs to automatically salivate. So that was outside of their awareness, outside of their control. They automatically did this when the stimulus happened, when the bell happened. And we know the exact same thing happens with humans, and it's a huge aspect of advertising, especially things like perfumes, for example. So perfumes create very strong anchors for people. So when you use perfumes or aftershave, it reminds people of when you first met them and when you actually first smelled those perfumes. I still remember the smell of different smells from people that I've met from years ago, or maybe the smell of polish on the floor in school and all sorts of things like that. So we'll talk about this in the training room, and we'll have great fun actually using these techniques to create change and to collapse these negative anchors using anchoring. So stimulus response, talk about anchoring. Visualization and outcomes. This is leaning deeper into what we've learned from the first chapter, which is about outcomes and SMART goals, and the important about visualization and actually helping us to create consistent motivation towards our goals, as opposed to away from what we don't want. And finally, we've got emotion and motivation, and there's some really important aspects to that. So now here's your tip for this week. If you want a very fast way of going through all of this module on motivation, all of the leveraging the limbic system, then what I recommend you do is you take out your test, right? You scan the test for questions related to what we're talking about, and then you go straight over to the Academy for Lifelong Learning and go to the Success Coach program, which is part of your bonus if you've taken up the bonus section. And I think everybody has this cohort. And go to module 2, which is called Leveraging the Limbic System, which is exactly what we're talking about today. And there are 4 hours of content from previous quarterly meetings we've done for our more advanced students. And this is a recap for these students of 4 aspects of NLP, which is now called Leveraging the Limbic System, or the section on motivation. So if you watch this section and you block out 4 hours for the week and spend 1 hour on each of these different modules, it's about 4 hours in total. And if you watch these, this will give you the fastest way of getting an understanding of how to leverage the limbic system, the 4 aspects of motivation. Okay, so there's also some extra bonuses down there as well. I don't know if you can quite see it on the screen, but there's 2 bonus sections, 2 bonus products I've added in there as well. One is called your first coaching digital product, creating your first coaching digital product. The second one's called leveraging the legacy, your leverage legacy plan, which is a more advanced technique that we teach our Amplify students, our more advanced students who are building wealth businesses and things like that. So do check that out. Watch the 4 videos. Make sure you've got your tests with you. I'm getting great feedback from people on their tests. If you haven't got your test finished, get focused on getting that test finished. All of the answers you need for the test for this week are actually in this video. So make sure you listen into the video in this section here. It will give you all the answers that you need. And I'm really proud of this particular module. I think it's a very good quality video, very good quality audio, very good quality content, and I really had a lot of fun making it. So I hope you enjoy watching that video this week. And that's pretty much it for this week. So what we're left to say is, remember, this is not a sprint, it's a race. So we don't want to leave everything to the last minute. We want to build momentum. We want to get focused on covering little different aspects each week. This week we've got 4 hours to focus on those video contents, getting your tests done. Because if we actually take a little bit every day, we make it so much easier. We don't have to have a big panic at the end. We can just move forward with grace and look forward to what is happening. Just move out there a little bit. So what we want to do is we want to focus on doing a little bit every day that we can, get your 4 hours done for the week, and that will get us there. And make sure you get your test into Magella. Message Magella if you're making progress on the test. Let her know so she can catch up with you and finish the test. And all I've left to say to you is, before we finish, is tonight you may dream. And you may have wild dreams, or you may have crazy dreams, you may have fun dreams, you may have enjoyable dreams, or you may not dream at all. And take that as a sign that everything you're learning about NLP at the moment is integrating at the unconscious level. Whether it's about mindset or motivation or messaging or models or mastery, whether it's about rapport, sense security, about goal setting, about anchoring or submodalities, and all the things that you can come across as you learn about these techniques and you learn them at a deep level, the information will flow from you and through you easily in the future. When you need it, it will be there. God bless and good night, guys, and we'll speak to you in a couple of weeks. Look forward to speaking to you next week when we talk about messaging, and all the best, and we'll speak to you very soon. Bye for now, and speak to you all next week.